Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Spectrum. I'm Jason Romano. Really excited today for our guest, Jeremy Hefner. He's the pitching coach with the New York Mets. He's also a former Mets player and came up through the Padres organization as well as a player. He's got a pretty cool story, and a lot of people have been saying you got to get Jeremy Hefner on the show. So here we are today, and we're happy to have him. Jeremy, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me. This is a treat.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to have you. Good to see you as we record on Zoom. 2021 right around the corner as far as the season, and we're really excited. I think I told you beforehand, I'm trying to be, play it down the middle here, but I am a New York Mets fan. I've been a fan since the early 80s, so it's a treat to talk to you as a fan as well. And we got another season coming around, but let's look back just for a second to 2020. I mean, there's so many things that happened from a baseball perspective, from, I have to imagine, from a faith perspective for you, from just a life perspective. When you think back, it was your first year with the Mets too, as their pitching coach, and you're in a spring training and then you're not, and then the season starts and it's a shortened season and it's such a weird year. What comes to mind when you think back to last year?
Oh man, lots of things. I think the best thing about 2020 was the ability to be with my family for much longer than I normally get to. I tell people all the time, like, I haven't seen the trees and the flowers bloom in Oklahoma in springtime in a very, very long time, and I got to do that. I got to watch my Oklahoma's restrictions were a little bit different than everyone else's, so some sports were still able to play. So I was able to watch my son play ball, and my girls play softball and gymnastics and all the stuff outside. And so getting to spend that extra time with them was just a treat and something that I'll look back on fondly for 2020. Now, the baseball side,
Yeah.
definitely presented some challenges. I'm a young guy relative to my peers on the pitching coaches in the major leagues. I'm inexperienced coaching wise. I'd only been a bullpen coach for 1 year and then a scout essentially for 2 years before that after I got done playing. And so I didn't really have a ton of experience to fall back on, like, what do I do in this situation? Or how do I talk to this player about this particular thing? And so really it came down to leveraging the people around me and making sure that the players understood what I could do and what I couldn't do. And then also, like, allowing the people around me that also worked for the Mets to help me make decisions. So certainly not a one-man show, and wanted to make sure that everyone was a part of it, and that we were preparing for whenever it was always like, it's 2 weeks away. It's 2 weeks away. It was like consistently pushing back, which is just totally fine, because everything that's going on with the pandemic, like, we want to be safe and all that kind of stuff. So we're fine with it, but it was just a constant dialogue, and the unknown presented the challenges. But we were able to try to make the best decisions we could day after day, and get the guys ready and safely ready.
So if somebody asked you down the road, what's the baseball moment that stands out that would only have happened for you in 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this probably won't happen in any other season, but it happened this year. And, certainly the restart in late July, but what was the moment that you will probably tell them if they were to ask you about baseball in 2020 as a coach?
Constantly, like preventing myself from giving high fives and shaking hands, and like physical contact for a coach, whether it be like a shrug on the shoulder or a high five or a slap on the back or whatever, that physical touch to let the player know you're there and you're with them, like, positive or negatively, like, whatever's going on, I'm with you. Like, that part was tough. And so recognizing times I needed to do it, and then try to be safe all the other times. That's something that I'll forever remember. And even, like, after we win and we go through and give the high fives, like, just those things that you never ever thought about before were constantly on your mind, not out of fear, but more so just out of making sure that everyone was safe and healthy.
Yeah, respect for everyone, and it's
Sure.
funny, the fist bump has become the new handshake, right?
Yeah, or the elbow.
Or the elbow. That's exactly
Mm-hmm.
right. Or whatever you want to call. I guess when you're a player and you have, like, the Bash, Bash Brothers back in the day, and they would kind of do the elbow or the thing. I mean, I guess you can kind of Bring that back.
Yeah, for sure. For
Coming
sure.
into 2021. You got to be excited, I would imagine, about this team. And yes, we're taping this in late January, early February, and a time when, you know, the roster is not finalized yet and moves are still being made. So some things could change after we have this conversation, for all I know. But I have to imagine with the team that's assembled right now, you got to be kind of excited for 2021 and getting a full year under your belt with this team.
Yeah, totally. Anytime a pitching staff's led by number 48, Jacob deGrom,
Yep.
you feel pretty good. You feel real good going into a season. Jake's ability to command a game every fifth day and help lead our team goes a long ways. But it's not just Jake; it takes the whole team. So the rest of our rotation, as it plays out, Noah coming back in the middle of the year, giving us support there, and then experience. Uh, uh, Different angles and different pitches out of the bullpen, giving Luis ample weapons to go out and try to win the game. So yeah, I'm fired up. All the energy around Mr. Cohen taking over the game, or taking over the team, and the energy he's brought and the resources he's brought to us to help us go out and win a World Series has been refreshing, and definitely excited and feel that excitement.
As a pitcher yourself, and you came up and you were with the Mets and made your debut with the Mets
Mm-hmm.
in 2012. When you watch a guy like deGrom and you see him, and obviously as a fan or just a guy who watches a lot of Mets games, and I see every single time out, you're pretty much going to be in the game with him. And when he gives up 3 runs, you're shocked. And it's just really, it reminds me of watching Gooden in 84, 85, 86. And I was a young boy then, but I do remember watching him and just how special he was in those years. And he's just one of those pitchers. When you watch him, you know you're seeing something unbelievably special. What is it in your short time that you've been with him last year? What is it that makes him so special?
Um, a lot of things, but I think it comes down to consistency. Consistency in his routine, consistency in his work ethic and his approach. Um, he has really good pitches too. So you couple the really good pitches with the strong mental game, like he's a generational pitcher. Like we're gonna look back in 50 years and like I got to witness Jake firsthand every 5 days, like hopefully for 30 plus starts this year. Like that's something I'll forever be grateful for and remember. And it's because he it doesn't matter who he is. He loves the competition. It doesn't matter if he's on the backfield against double A players, and that's not anything against double A players, but it's just like sometimes those don't have as much energy. But you watch him and he's locked in and he wants to win, and so
Mm.
that consistent mindset of I'm going to beat you, no matter what, has I think that speaks to a lot of the success that he's had.
Jeremy Hefner is joining us here on Sports Spectrum. He's a pitching coach with the New York Mets. I want to ask one more baseball related question to you, and then I want to get into your journey a little bit, but
Mhm.
in terms of the Mets and right now, but I don't really understand, I think, exactly the role of a pitching coach. And I know what the role is. You're the coach of the pitchers, but what does that look like on a day-to-day basis? And you're working with starters, you're working with relievers, you get guys that are called up, you get injuries, obviously, and you have new people and rotations. What does that look like from your perspective? I know you said you're, only been doing this for a little while now, a couple years or so, and certainly 1 year
Mhm.
with the Mets. But what exactly does that job entail for those that are watching? Because a lot of us, we just see the manager tell the pitching coach, go out and talk to him. He's in a jam, calm him down. And that's really all we see. So we don't really understand kind of what goes on behind the scenes as a pitching coach. Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So simply, I think it's a relational um, role and it's a developmental role. Um, and I don't think you can do the development until you have the relationship piece. And so, yes, it is going out on the mound and, we're facing whoever and we need to throw this pitch or make a suggestion about a pitch or what are you guys feeling? Those types of things. But it's certainly much more than that. It's in the bullpen, talking through game strategy. It's um, in the outfield during batting practice or during their catch play, talking about life or baseball or whatever they want to talk about. And then and then and then ultimately like getting to know them and their journey and what's got them to this point in their career, and realizing that I am just another data point on that journey, and I'm not trying to put my name on them, but just partner with them. So it's a partnership, relational development, and it has to be a partnership. I don't dictate anything. I don't make anyone do anything. It's almost like each player is a CEO of their career, and I'm just another person giving them information, so that in hopes that that CEO makes a really good decision in a pressure pack situation, or not, or even just what they eat or how much sleep they get, or whatever. Just trying to be an information gatherer and then an information sharer, so that our entire group can make really good decisions over and over and over again. Because if we do that and we have a really strong process, then we're probably going to win more games than not, or we're at least putting ourselves in the best possible position to succeed day in and day out. And that consistency that I was talking about with Jake, like trying to apply that to everyone. Like if everyone's pretty consistent, then Luis knows what we're going to get out of them. And so then we can put them in the game in a certain situation so that they can be successful, starter or reliever or whatever. So, and then, so that's the player facing piece. And then maybe the front office or with my staff side of it, like it's the same. So it's relational and it's developmental. And I have a huge responsibility in making sure that our staff is developing, and that I know what they need and where I can help them. And then that's also like with all this, with players and coaches, like there's some level of accountability that they hold me to. So like I give a suggestion, they are well within their right to tell me like I'm crazy or I need to shut up or whatever. And then we
Yeah.
have a conversation about like why we disagree, and I think that's how we get to a better spot. So that's I kind of started rambling there a little bit, but I think that's, if I could sum it up, it's not being their friend. In some instances it is, but it's knowing where they're at and what they need, and then helping them develop and make themselves better, whether they've been a two-time NL Cy Young Award winner or they're a rookie. So
Well, a lot of that it comes down. That's kind of what culture is too, right? We talk about culture. It's such a buzzword. How's the culture in the locker room? What's the culture surrounding the team? But it's really that relational part in all aspects of it, right?
Yeah, culture over content. Like you can have the best information and the best whatever, like content, but if you don't have a good culture, it doesn't matter. So you got to have a good culture, and then the content starts to matter a little more.
All right, Jeremy Hefner, let's learn a little bit about you growing up. Perkins, Oklahoma is what I read. Where is
Yep.
Perkins, Oklahoma?
So Perkins, Oklahoma is like right in the middle of the state. So if you know where Oklahoma City is, and if you have some inkling where Stillwater, Oklahoma is, that's where Oklahoma State University is.
Sure.
That's pretty much where it's at. So it's right in the middle, right near I-35. It's about an hour in between Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
So tell us about growing up in Oklahoma, not from just a baseball side, but really from a faith perspective, and maybe walk us through your journey with the Lord and the role that plays in your life.
Sure. Um, yeah, I mean it's the Bible Belt. Oklahoma's the Bible Belt. So I was very fortunate to grow up in a household where we went to church every Sunday and every Sunday night and every Wednesday, and quite often in my baseball uniform, because we had a tournament right after church. Like my parents have been married for almost 36 years now, and so I'm grateful that I was able to grow up in the home that I did. Values, treating people right, working hard, blue collar to a certain extent. But so always grandparents, you know, everybody went to church, like all that kind of stuff. And so like I just kind of grew up in that. And I think like initially, you know, ask Jesus into my heart, was baptized when I was 10 years old. So like I've been a believer my entire life, essentially. And so, and that hasn't been without some ebbs and flows and uh, not questioning, but like trying to understand like the world around me and the people around me, the people that I interact with day in and day out, like trying to understand their worldview and in relation to mine, and how we can and how I can ultimately be a friend to that person, has been part of it. But specifically in Oklahoma, like that's what it was. It was church all the time, church camp during the summers, all that stuff.
So as you got older and eventually you're selected by the Padres, you were actually drafted by the Mets a couple times, later rounds, in the draft, and then went back and then got drafted in the fifth round in 2007
Mhm,
by the Padres, and
mhm,
that's what begins your pro baseball career. So
mhm,
where are you as far as your faith in the challenges that come? Because you kind of mentioned the ebbs and flows, and I
mhm,
think a lot of guys, when they become professional baseball players, there's a push pull. The world's
mhm,
pulling at you, and you have a lot of success, especially if you're getting drafted, and then you go to the minor leagues and you're humbled pretty quickly. What was that
mhm.
time like for you at a young, 22, 23-year-old kid?
Yeah. So I think I come out of one of the lulls into a really good place. So it kind of all came to a head. I met my future wife. I spent a year at Oral Roberts University. Um, and then all kind of got drafted all within like a 18-month window, and really was in a good spot when I when I got on that flight to Eugene. Actually, we were playing in Spokane, so I was playing for the team in Eugene, but we were on the road in Spokane. So I had a flight from Tulsa to Spokane and landed, and there was a pro baseball player, and not really. I think like backtracking a tick, like I didn't always have the dream and goals of being a professional baseball player. Like I was a average athlete in high school, and like I was good. Like I got drafted out of high school, so you have to be good to get drafted out of high school. But like front of mind, like my work is to be a professional baseball player in high school and college. It was more so like I'm just like this is all crazy. Like I didn't expect all of this. So it was much more of drinking through a fire hose a little bit. And now here I am, a pro baseball player and around a lot of really good players. Um, then it became a little bit more of a hey, this could be a real thing for me. Like I need to I need to figure some things out on the baseball side. On the faith side, wife's a believer, comes from a Christian home. And she is very good at holding me accountable, not in a very very loving way. Like,
Sure.
hey, probably shouldn't do that, or that's a good idea. Let's pursue that a little bit. So her guidance, my parents' guidance, my in-laws' guidance, had a lot of really really good people around me to help you know the bowling alley, like to keep me away from those gutters where I could get off the rails. I had a strong circle around me.
I want to go to 2012, and it was April 23rd of 2012 that you made your debut, your major league debut, and it was with the Mets. And you were with the Mets organization and came after you were with San Diego and their organization in 2012. So take us to that moment. I love asking guys their major league baseball debut experience because there's so many memories that surround that moment, getting the call, putting the uniform on, getting in your first game. What was that time like? And maybe share with us that story and that experience.
Yeah, and it was that was a crazy day. So I was in AAA with the Mets. Um, I was scheduled to start in the AAA game. We were in Lehigh Valley, which is AAA for the Phillies. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and so I'm getting up, going get some coffee and some breakfast, and get a call from Wally Backman, who was our manager at the time, and he goes, "Hef, you got to pack your bags. You're going to New York." And I was like, "What?" Because in some context, Matt Harvey, Jerry's Familia, Henry Mejia, Colin McHugh, and me. Those were the five starters in Buffalo that year, and I'm like, why of all those guys, like why are you choosing me?
Yeah.
And now I understand, like it was my turn to start. I had the most innings available in my arm, so going up was I was going to be the guy that could fulfill the most innings if stuff got haywire during the game. And so I learned that afterwards, but in the moment I was like, this makes no sense. And so he goes, you're not flying, because Lehigh Valley is like 2.5 hours, I think, if I remember correctly, from the city. You're just gonna get in a car, they're gonna pick you up, and you'll drive in. There's a doubleheader, and you'll get there in plenty of time, like all that kind of stuff. And so I rushed around. My wife is in Buffalo. Buffalo to New York City is like 8 hours or 7-hour drive.
Oh yeah.
No chance, because they told me that it was a doubleheader. They told me I was going to be active for the first game. So there's no chance that Sarah and Jace, who's my son, who we had at the time, there's no way that they could get to New York in time. And so I was like, and then there's absolutely no way my parents could make it, or any family or friends that could come from Oklahoma. So I knew it was going to be by myself, and it was just going to be me. And if I got in the game, I was going to make my debut, and they would get to see me on TV and those types of things. So, so the first moment of like, oh, this is real. I can't remember, we're in New Jersey somewhere, but you can see the Statue of Liberty. And the guy that was driving our car, he was like, do you guys want the scenic route or the fast route? And I was like, I know how baseball works. I may never be able to come back to New York City. Like, let's take the scenic route. And I'd never been to New York City. I'd flown in and out, but never actually like been there and seen the buildings and been close to the buildings and seen the Statue of Liberty or anything. So
sure.
So it ends up taking a little bit of extra time to go the scenic route, and I get there like 30 minutes before the game. I throw in my pants and jersey, and I head out to the bullpen. And I get there like as they're singing the national anthem, and they gave me some clue that I'd probably pitch, but it'd be kind of in the middle of the game. It was a doubleheader, so they had to make a spot start with one of the relievers. So like, all right, so I start prepping, and mind you, like I'd never made a relief appearance in my career up until that point, and so had no idea how to warm up, no idea. Like, luckily, Ricky Bones, who is the current Mets bullpen coach, he was there as well, and he kind of gave me some pointers, like this is what you need to be doing. These are the pitches you should throw, those things. And so the reliever that was in the game, he came away with a little back tightness, and the phone rang, and I was like, well, this may be me. And sure enough, it was. And then they said, you're in next inning. And so usually when you're a starter, you have as much time as you want, really, but usually their routine takes 20 to 30 minutes. I had like 2 to 3 minutes. At least that's what it felt like. Yeah. And so yeah, and then I came in the game, faced Buster Posey right out of the gate. And I should give some context to the stadium too. So this was a makeup doubleheader for a rainout game. And so this is middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday or something. And so there's like no one in the stands.
Empty. Yeah.
It's empty. There's like 5,000 people there, which is fine. Like it's cool. But like, yeah, I don't have that, sold out crowd at, starting the game against whoever. But it was cool. Like I faced Buster Posey and the Giants, and had a really cool debut. And then I got sent out in between games. So went back to the minor leagues, which was tough, but it is what it is. And I ultimately made my way back, and they felt like I performed well enough to call me back up. So
that's a great story.
It was a fun experience.
Well, and then what was it? Your first win, which I think was later that year, if I'm remembering correctly, and I should have done my research. Didn't you hit a home run in your first game that you got to win? And pitchers don't hit home runs.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I say
so
that.
It was my second start. So I actually got to start against the Padres. So I get to face some of my old teammates and friends. And that's then cool. The next start, I faced the Phillies. And I hit a home run in my first at bat, and ended up pitching well enough and keeping us in the game, and we secured the win. So
how shocked were you when you hit a home run? Like, are you just absolutely like, what just happened?
Yeah, I mean, like I hit in high school. I played shortstop and outfield, and I played everywhere. And growing up, I hit and stuff like that, and I was always okay at hitting. Like never struggled really, but pitching was what I was better at. So that's the route I went. And in the National League, like you hit some as a pitcher, so you practice some. but like if anyone tells you like they expected to hit a run, if a pitcher tells you they expected to hit a home run, they're lying through their teeth. So it was one of those things where it was a 2-1 count. It was 2 outs. There was nobody on. Like, this is my chance to like put a good swing on the ball, and I clicked it enough, and it got out. So it
Wow.
was
And
fun.
City
That was
Field, especially in those early years, was not an easy place to hit a home run. So you got to get a hold of one if you get one out of the stadium there. So
I tucked it around the line. So whenever I hit it, and I thought I got underneath it. So I'm getting out of the box a little bit, and I hit first base, and I hear the crowd yell. So many more people there that day than at my debut. I
sure.
hit first base, and I hear the crowd go, "Yeah!" So I'm like, "All right, he dropped it," or like it tucked in and like barely hit fair or whatever. So like I round first, and I look to see the left fielder, and he's just standing there, and then I focus in a little bit closer to me to find the umpire to see what he's saying. So maybe it was a foul ball and it was close, and he like dropped it or something, and he's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no way that went out. So yeah, then rounding the base and giving a high five to Tough, and then having all the guys back in the dugout who knew me but didn't really know me.
Sure.
I'd only been around them for a couple of months. Like, to have them, embrace me like that was a lot of fun.
Did you get the ball?
Oh yeah. So Johan, speaks to Johan's character. He signed a bat for the guy, and I was able to get the ball. Yeah. So I have my uniform from that game, the ball, and the scorecard in my son's room. So something that we'll
Nice.
be able to talk about for forever.
Absolutely. As we wind down, I do want to ask you one other question about that 2012 season, because two really awesome things happened, even though the Mets didn't have a great year as a team. Johan Santana, you mentioned him, pitches a no-hitter. It's the only no-hitter
Mhm.
still to this day in the history of the Mets. And as a fan, I never thought we would see a no-hitter. It was a crazy game in the way it happened. And he pitched, he really wrestled through that game to get that no-hitter. And then R.A. Dickey is on that team, and he goes and has one of the top 3, maybe 4 seasons that a starting pitcher has ever had, if I'm being honest here, with the Mets. When he wins 20 games and the Cy Young, and does it as a knuckleball pitcher, which is just insane. What was it like to
Mhm.
be around those two and those two experiences? One is a full year experience. The other one is a game experience.
Yeah, the Johan no hitter was a lot of fun. We always knew when Johan took the ball. It's kind of like Jake and some of the guys, and Stroh, and some of the guys we have on our current team. Like, this might happen. This could happen tonight. And so the feeling isn't the same when Jeremy Hefner toes the slab. We'll say that much. But it's just a different energy with the group and the team, and
Sure.
it was a good Cardinals team that year, and I think they lost to the Giants that year in the championship series, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah.
um, so first 3 or 4 innings, yeah, no hits, yeah, this happened. I mean, it's not a regular thing, but like, it happens every now and then. And the 4th, 5th, and it's typical for starters who aren't pitching in the game to go up, use the restroom, get a bottle of water, watch the game on TV, because you get a different perspective. And
Yeah.
but not that night. Once I got to the 5th, 6th inning, we were cemented in our seats, and I don't think G and Nice and all the boys were we were locked into Johan and there for him every step. And it's hard to see, but like, I had this thought in like the 7th or 8th inning. I was like, I'm gonna be the first one out there. I want to make sure that I'm the first one out there, because this is so cool. Like, I'm giddy. Like, I'm a fan too in that moment. Like, as
Sure.
much as I am a teammate of Johan, like, I'm a fan of baseball and witnessing history here. Like, this is awesome. So if you go back and watch the video, I do sneak in there, but the angle's tough. So so the Johan piece was great. And then since then, in my time in Minnesota, I got to work with Johan a little bit. He lives in Fort Myers and is around the spring training complex for them, and getting to relive that and talk with him and learn from him has been great. And then the R.A. Dickey, excellence, consistency, kind of like what we talk about with Jake. You just knew that we were going to win that game. Like, anytime you towed the rubber, that was a win. Defense were on their toes. The guys wanted to score runs for him the whole bit. He was it's unique. Like, he's a unique knuckleballer too, because he could actually throw he had like 4 or 5 other pitches too that he could actually pitch with. He just didn't have the high velocity. And
Yeah.
so watching him work, his the way he took owned his craft and was a professional about his craft was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that was great. Jeremy Hefner has been our guest here on Sports Spectrum. As we wind down, why don't you leave us with some encouragement? Maybe our listeners are
Yeah.
sports fans who love Jesus. In many cases, there's certainly people that fit in different spectrums who listen to this show, and maybe a lot of Met fans are tuning in who normally wouldn't listen today, but are checking it out because of our conversation. But leave us maybe with some encouragement. Maybe it's a Bible verse or some words of wisdom, something that God has been showing you lately.
Yeah. So I have a good group of men here that we share coffee and talk about the word on Wednesday mornings. And right now we're going through First Samuel, and we're just at the beginning of it, and we're at Hannah's prayer or her song, and so that's fresh on my mind. And I think that type of what she had to deal with being barren, and then God allowing her to have Samuel, and then how that fits into the entire arc and story of the Bible, like her willingness to be emotional and cry out, and then God heard her, and then fulfilled that prayer, and then her willingness to give him up to Eli, and all that kind of stuff. Like, I just think like that, just learning from a trial, and then praying, and then hoping for the future. Like, I think that's something we should think about all the time, but especially with what we went through in 2020, the political climate, everything that's going on. Like, yes, our past is our past, and God was faithful then, like he's faithful now, and he'll be faithful in the future. And so, and then giving him the praise accordingly. So it's not when I get the promotion, or I end up having the kid, or whatever the case may be, and we start puffing our chest out, but it's true humility, and giving praise where praise is due. That's kind of been on my mind, and then especially going through Hannah's story.
He is Jeremy Hefner, the New York Mets pitching coach, and just excited for this season to start. Excited to have baseball, but I live up here in the Northeast in Connecticut. I'm just excited for warm weather, so that's exciting to think about as the season gets started here. But thanks for joining us, man. Great to connect with you. Great to know you, and hopefully we'll get you back on again sometime. All the best.
Yeah, same. I appreciate the time.